Have you ever looked at the default SharePoint form and wished it could do more? Then you clicked on the right video. Welcome to the first part of the Forms for SharePoint video guide. We will go over all the features of this product in detail, and in today's video, we're going to see how to customize your SharePoint form and make it more functional. Let's go. We'll start in SharePoint. I have created 3 different lists using Microsoft templates to showcase how you can design different layouts using Plumsail Forms for SharePoint. But first, let's look at the default form generated in SharePoint. As you can see, it's rather straightforward and does the job. However, if you'd like to add more fields, for example, like signature or data table, or if you'd like a certain design or look to it, that's when Plumsail Forms for SharePoint comes in handy. Let's open Plumsail Forms for SharePoint app. If you don't have it installed yet, you can go to plumsail.com and start free 30-day trial simply by registering an account. It won't take more than 5 minutes. As you can see, it is a desktop application behaving like a browser. A great feature of this app is that you can open and design custom forms for different lists and libraries simultaneously with a multi-tab UI. The Employee Onboarding form is already open, so let's add the other two. First, click Add New Tab, and you will be prompted to connect to your SharePoint tenant. Then you can select the site and the list or library that you want to work with. We'll select the recruitment tracker list, click Open, and we'll repeat the same steps to open travel request with approval form. Let's look how we can design the forms and what features can be used to make them more user-friendly and functional. This is our employee onboarding form. First, let's select the version that we want to edit. It's right here in the upper right-hand corner. The options are the following. New form, available for SharePoint lists only. This is the form that opens when you click to add new item in a SharePoint list. Edit form, when you need to edit values stored in a list or properties of a file stored in a library. Display form allows you to see what values are stored in an item or check the properties of an uploaded file. Next, let's decide how we want to open our form in SharePoint. We can set it to open as a panel on the left in 3 different sizes, small, medium, and large, just like coffee. Or you can set it to full screen. We'll select the large size as we have several fields to fill in. You can always go back and change it. You can import another form or export the current form if you want to reuse it. If you decide you no longer want to utilize a certain form, you can click Delete and the default SharePoint form will be restored. Now let's select a container where the fields and controls will be distributed. You can choose either Grid, Stack, Wizard, Tabs, or Accordion. We'll go over each one of them individually. Plumsail Forms for SharePoint app is quite easy to use. All the containers, fields, and controls can be easily dragged and dropped inside the form. As you see, the form is partially designed and we'll finish customizing it together. So let's add one more grid container. The grid container is the most basic element of Plumsail Forms. By default, every form already has a grid, so by placing grid container inside the form, you are technically inserting one grid within another. After adding the grid, you can adjust the width, making one of them wider or ensuring they are symmetrical. And now let's add the rest of the SharePoint fields. Mentor, complete by, complete, and completed on. And going back to the grid cell properties, you can change the alignment of the fields inside the container. So we have left, right, middle, and top or bottom, as well as the columns, padding, class, and style. The stacked function defines at what screen size items get stacked inside the container. So we'll choose medium. The frame property defines the horizontal or vertical padding and border radius of the container. So let's add roundness to it by setting parameters to 50, 30, and hundreds. You can adjust it according to your fields, of course. Fill and border parameters let you select a color that you want to use, especially if your organization uses specific branding colors. So you can paste the hex code right here. We'll add a light blue color for the fill, and for the border, we'll add the same one we already used in this template, the dark blue one, and set the width to 5. There are more options to customize the grid. You can add CSS class to the container, which comes in handy with CSS or even JavaScript code. This will work as a class attribute for an HTML tag. And you can add custom CSS style to the container. This will work as a style attribute for an HTML tag. So let's look at the form template. We have the main grid that contains two more inside of it. The grid on the left stayed as is for a cleaner look. Now let's look at the SharePoint fields and how they can be customized. Here on the left side, you can change the title of the field and its placement, either on the top or on the left. There's an option to remove the field and adjust its width. These are just quick adjustments. Let's look on the right-hand side. You can customize each field further. It's similar to the properties we have looked at earlier when customizing the grid. You can adjust alignment, columns, and padding on each side. Next, you have SharePoint field data. And in the general properties, you can change the field's title or just hide it, change the layout, add a hint, and enable read-only mode. You can also add CSS class and CSS style to the field. In the title section, you can adjust the width of the title, font size, and color, as well as the format. The wrap feature can be enabled for long titles. And in the control section, you can customize the text that is entered into the field. Now let's add some controls that are not offered in the original SharePoint forms. For example, we can add heading to the top of the form. And let's rename it to Employee Onboarding Form. Just like SharePoint fields, you can make similar adjustments here on the right. You can also underline the heading or cross it out. And let's choose the largest font size. And we'll use the same dark blue color we already used in this form. You can align the heading to the left, middle, or right, and add bold or italic emphasis. Furthermore, you can customize the frame, fill and border settings, along with the subheading, width, class, and additional CSS style. Next, you can incorporate your organization's logo by adding an image control, but ensure that you store the image first in the SharePoint library and then add the image link to the image property. An image can serve as a design element, adding visual appeal to your form. Additionally, you can add hyperlink so it's more interactive. And let's imagine that the mentor needs to sign off on the form once the onboarding process is finished. To add this feature, drag and drop ink sketch control to the form. And let's rename it to mentor signature. It can be marked as a required field or not. And just like with other fields, you can change the properties like width, height, and add a specific ink color if you want. Next property is the most important one, save to SharePoint list. You can save this control to an existing column or field or add it as a new one. We'll do the latter, and let's give it a name signature and click add field. And we'll see how it looks in SharePoint shortly. And let's explore additional controls. The text control is ideal for conveying information to the users. You can insert prompts or disclosures directly into the text property. The button control, as you may guess, allows you to add buttons to the form. You can change the text of the button, its type, which adds the color, and don't forget to add JavaScript to be executed on click. If this property is empty, the button won't do anything. The submit control is similar to the button, but it already has JavaScript in it. And as you may guess, it submits the form. We are going to look closer at both button and submit controls later in the video. The capture control prevents spam and bot submissions, ensuring that only real individuals can submit a form. The data table control allows you to add dynamic tables to the forms, and just like ink sketch control, it can be saved to an existing field in SharePoint or added to a new one. Linker scale control can be used to create different types of surveys, including customer satisfaction, employee engagement, overall experience, etc. You can change the look of the scale by selecting type. Question and answer properties can be easily modified as well, and the scale can be saved to an existing field or added to a new one. The HTML control allows you to add absolutely any HTML code to the forms, and it can be used for a variety of reasons, including loading JavaScript files, creating hidden fields, etc. You can click and add it in the content property. The lookup control is very similar to the SharePoint lookup field, but it can be used to connect to different sites and even site collections. We will show the capabilities of this control in the next video of the guide. Stay tuned. List a library control allows you to view, edit, add or delete items or documents directly from the form. This control is extremely powerful and versatile. It supports filtering, selecting root folder, uploading multiple documents at once, and much more. We will demonstrate its capabilities in the next video of the guide as well. The user calendar control is used to show free or busy time of the specified user. It can be bound to a user field and display the user schedule, or the user can be set manually with JavaScript. Common fields are supplementary input elements in a SharePoint form, which can be used in combination with SharePoint fields. However, data entered in a common field is not saved to SharePoint. There is an option to copy data to a SharePoint field with JavaScript, or you can store it in your Plumsail account and later use in Power Automate with the help of Plumsail Forms connectors. However, this option is available under Public Web Forms product. If you'd like to learn more, I have linked an article in the description to this video. Now that we have finished designing this form, let's save it and see how it looks in SharePoint. We'll select all three versions of the form: New, Edit, and Display. Click Save. Now let's go back to SharePoint. Click New to add an item. And our form looks great. Big difference from the default one, right? As you can see, the form opened as a large panel. If you wish to make the browser window smaller, the form fields will adjust automatically. Let's fill out the form and test that all fields work. Here we go. Let's sign it. Click Save. The final form looks fantastic, and you can also save a PDF copy of the filled out form. Next, let's look at the recruitment tracker form. You can see that it's already partially designed. I have used a combination of stack and grid containers. The stack container allows you to place controls on a fixed distance from each other. This can be useful for fields that should always go together, like first and last name or address fields. To start, I dragged and dropped the stack container and then added 2 grid containers inside of it, so we can distribute the form fields evenly. You can add more grid containers to create 3 or 4 or more columns. You can adjust the alignment and padding of the grid containers. Next, we set spacing to 15 to allow for some room between containers. Field property gives you an option to fix the width of one of the containers. First, lets you change the width of the container on the right, and the container on the left fills in the rest of the space. Last does the opposite, and we'll select last. For a unified look, let's add the dark blue color to the right grid and set the border width to 5. And let's add the rest of the SharePoint fields. We have phone screen date, phone screener, interview date, interviewers, notes, and signature. Please note that the default signature SharePoint field is text only. You can add the initials or full name as text and call it a day, but if you want an actual signature field, you can add our ink sketch control that we looked at earlier. So let's rename it, adjust the width and height. You can also change the color of the ink. And this time we save the signature control to already existing field called signature. Quite easy, and you can also adjust the title. And let's add some buttons to our form. First, add a stack container and drag and drop button and submit. Next, let's set the spacing to 15 and fill to last to keep the alignment of the form design. We'll rename button to cancel, and for property type, you can pick, for example, secondary or success, but danger seems more appropriate in this case. Now we need to add JavaScript to execute when the button is clicked. If this property is empty, the button won't do anything, remember. And we'll add return space fd dot close and brackets. And the submit control already has the code, so we don't have to do anything. So let's save the form. Another great feature of Plumsail Forms for SharePoint is that you can switch between content types added to the same list. You can do so by clicking on the drop-down arrow right here, or you can always open it in a new tab. It's totally up to you. Just make sure that you save the form before you switch. In this example, we have the recruitment tracker list where we can track applicants, and the schedule where we can add interview appointments, notes, and attachments like CV and cover letter. So let's check these forms in our SharePoint list. First, recruitment tracker form, and let's test the cancel button. It works great. And now the schedule form. It looks fantastic as well. And now let's take a look at the last form template, travel request with approvals. I have used Wizard Container for this form, which is perfect for when you need to fit in a lot of fields in one form. And Wizard allows you to guide the user through the form step by step. So I have created 4 steps with each containing 2 to 4 fields from the list. If you click on the Wizard container inside the template, you can change the placement of the steps from left to right and right to left. And you can rename each step as well. In the grid cell properties, you can adjust alignment, columns, and padding, as well as class and style. In the general properties, you can change the width, shape of each step to circle, square, or tab. You can also rename the next, back, and finish button. Let's change next to proceed, back to return, and finish to submit. And the saving text can be changed as well. So let's see how the buttons look now. Great, and the code is already present in the finish property, so we can submit the form without problem. And if you prefer a little bit of a different look, you can choose the tabs container. You can add as many tabs as you need by simply clicking on the plus symbol. Grid cell properties offer the same option we have looked at earlier, and in general settings, you can change the name, width, and orientation of the tabs, so we have top, left, or bottom. And the last container is Accordion. It helps organize form content within horizontally collapsible panels. And of course, you can add as many panels as you need, and you can change the name of each panel and its placement. So let's save our form and check it in SharePoint. The form looks great. Let's fill it out. Now all the fields are complete, and the travel duration days will be calculated automatically after we click Submit. Let's open our new entry. It looks great, and as you can see, the travel days are there now. And let's see what other settings are offered in the Plumsail Forms for SharePoint. If you want to change the appearance of elements in your form, you can either edit style property of the element or apply custom styles with CSS editor. Don't forget that you can give each element a class and then use it in the CSS editor to apply styles by class. And you can find more information in the article linked in the description. Another thing that you can alter in any form is JavaScript. And with our rich JavaScript API, you can do a lot. Please make sure that you're familiar with the events present in the JavaScript API first, as these events need to be used to get access to all forms elements, and you can find more information in the article in the description as well. In the general settings, you can change the form view to panel with sizes small, medium, or large, or you can set it to full screen. You can import and export the form, and we also have an extensive article I have linked in the description covering how to provision forms from one side to another programmatically using Visual Studio and our NuGet package in case it's not just a few forms that you want to export. And if you decide you no longer want to utilize certain forms, you need to select them and then click Delete. This will restore the default SharePoint forms. Plumsail forms are responsive out of the box, and by default, you create a form that can be utilized on all the devices. But you also have the option to design separate forms for either phone or tablet. Simply click on the device that you want to design the form for. Another great feature is that you can enable property, trigger a flow in Power Automate when a form is submitted. This will submit the form to Microsoft Power Automate and process not only SharePoint fields, but also common fields and controls without saving them to SharePoint list. After submitting a form, a trigger from Plumsail Forms connector is started, but please note that Plumsail Forms connector submissions are licensed under Public Web Forms and not under SharePoint Forms. In this video, we have explored the main design functions and controls available in Forms for SharePoint. I hope this session has been helpful, providing you with more insights in what can be done in SharePoint Forms. And stay tuned for the upcoming videos in the Forms for SharePoint video guide series, where we'll go into topics such as connecting lists from different sites, using lookup control, setting up cascading filtration, and more. If you'd like to explore customization further, you can check the documentation section on our website, as well as the blog and community space. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.